The Georgia haters are absolutely furious right now. They are furious because their narrative is crushed. The narrative that Georgia cannot produce wide receivers and the narrative that Georgia cannot have receivers have success in the NFL, which is a real thing. I know college coaches who are using that against Georgia on the recruiting trail. It's a narrative that Georgia haters love, and it's a narrative that is dead once and for all. It's never been true, but now it's officially crushed because they saw what Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey did in the NFL this past season. They broke records, and they know that this Georgia staff can walk into any living room and say, hey, you know that narrative that we can't produce wide receivers, the wide receivers can't come to Georgia and make in the NFL? It's over. It's crushed. Look at what our boys are doing out there. Look at what Brock Bowers is doing. He's the greatest tight end of all time, and I'm putting him in this category because he is a receiver. He receives the ball better than anyone at the tight end position in the NFL, and again, he received it better than any tight end in college football history. So he's probably the best pure pass catcher, probably in Georgia history, maybe. That's including AJ Green, my guy Freddie Gibson, Terrence Edwards, Ladd McConkey. I think Brock Bowers is the best pure pass catcher. So I'm putting him in this group. And Brock Bowers got better at Georgia. Ladd McConkey got better at Georgia. I'm going to break all of this down and tell the story of Brock Bowers and tell the story of Ladd McConkey. George Pickens is lighting it up too, but of course he's not a rookie. But Mecole Hardman is having a really nice career. Dude caught a game-winning catch in the Super Bowl. Chris Conley's still in the league, by the way. And there's more. I'm sure there's others floating around out there that I can't think of right now. But the narrative is dead, and this Georgia staff can use that. Now, I know a lot of it's about NIL and it's about money, and these things don't matter as much anymore. But there aren't a lot of narratives out there that you can put on this Georgia team and this Georgia program. That was one of them that was used on the recruiting trail, and it's over. It's done. And James Coley has come in, and he didn't develop those guys. He was around earlier and coached up George Pickens. But now that he's back, he can use that and say, look what these guys are doing. And it's helped him. And it helped him in last year's class, in the 25 class. Zachariah Branch at USC, he said, Georgia's not a place where receivers go, to die and fall off a cliff. No, I'm going to go there, right? I may not put up 1,000 yards, but I'm going to get better at Georgia. And Noah Thomas said the same thing, right? Talon Taylor from right outside of Chicago, kids from Illinois. He's looking at Georgia saying, I know I'm going to get better there. And if I go to Georgia, I know I have a chance to get drafted and do very well in the NFL. So I'm not saying that Georgia's this wide receiver powerhouse, over LSU or Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the narrative's dead, and the narrative has been used on Georgia before. But now Georgia can walk into a living room of a high school kid or a transfer portal kid and said, hey, this is what Brock Bowers did as a rookie. He caught a rookie record 112 passes for the Raiders. The Raiders, who don't have a quarterback. I mean, they don't have anyone competent over there throwing the football right now. And he still caught 112 passes as a rookie, most for a tight end in any season as a rookie. And y'all know that. I just feel like I need to keep saying it. For 1,194 yards and 5 touchdowns, basically put the offense on his back. So it was a rookie record in terms of receptions. First among tight ends in yards. His 596 yards after the catch were first among tight ends. 15 contested catches, first among tight ends. And Brock Bowers would have been a superstar no matter where he went. But he went to Georgia and he got better. As crazy as that sounds, and as good as he was as a freshman, he got better as a sophomore, and he battled through injuries in his third season, but he was still unbelievable, and he got better at Georgia. And players know that. They see that. So, and I'll talk about him in a second, a little bit more, because how could you not? I mean, this guy is on pace possibly for a Hall of Fame career. He's a college football Hall of Famer. He's one of the best Bulldogs of all time. I think you'd have to put Brock Bowers probably on that Mount Rushmore of Georgia players. I'm sure we'll talk about that in May, but he's up there. Ladd McConkey absolutely made his mark, not only at Georgia, but in the NFL too. Ladd McConkey, former three-star. I'm going to get into that in a second because I covered his recruitment and I love telling it. But he hauled in 91 passes as a rookie for 1,346 yards and 8 touchdowns. If you watched the Texans game, Ladd McConkey was the best player on the Chargers roster. Derwin James, the safety's really, really good. Khalil Mack, really, really good. They got some guys on defense. So probably offense. Outside of Rashawn Slater at tackle, Ladd McConkey was their best player by a mile. He's the only guy who could do anything. And he is going to tear up the NFL. His ability to run a route is crazy. And his athleticism that the Georgia staff saw, I think it was in January of 2020, Ladd McConkey had an offer from like Kennesaw State Owls, like UT Chattanooga, a lot of smaller schools. Kirby Smart and the staff went to watch him play basketball. And this was when you still had that February signing day still meant something. So they're still adding pieces and looking for guys in January. They watched him play basketball. They offered him. I think he went on a couple visits and, it all got squared away. He had an offer from Georgia. He went up to Knoxville for a visit to Tennessee. I believe this was Jeremy Pruitt still hanging around because I think Josh Heupel came in later. So I'm not putting this on Josh Heupel. Maybe I'm wrong. But Ladd McConkey went up there and they said, no, dude, you're too small. You're not good enough to play at Tennessee. That's what they told him when they did not offer him a scholarship. Dude goes to Georgia, crushes Tennessee throughout his career at Georgia, becomes one of the better receivers in program history. There's no doubt about it. And again, a low 3-star who just worked his tail off and learned how to run a route and be shifty and work on his footwork and his hands. He's a complete receiver. He's just not very big, but he is lightning quick. And he's a guy who got better at Georgia. And the haters hate that story the most because he is a low 3-star that nobody else wanted. And Georgia turned him into a really significant impact player who helped them win 2 national championships, right? And that's a story they can tell just about any recruit they want who plays wide receiver. They say, hey, we don't care where you're ranked. You can come here, get developed, and turn into a guy who could possibly, set rookie records. 2 rookie pass catchers set records in the NFL from Georgia. So the narrative is dead. People hate it, but it is what it is. And I don't want to say that there haven't been guys who haven't succeeded, right? We did see Dylan Bell take a step back. There's no doubt about that. Arian Smith was what he was. He had a big year, a lot of drops still, way too inconsistent, but he had his best season. But, they didn't have Kobe Young. They didn't have Rod Thomas. And so we just didn't see that improvement from the wide receivers. So, we can call it an anomaly, right? I think that's the word. When a season is just kind of out of the ordinary, super random, right? I expect Georgia's wide receiving core to get back to being a little more consistent. And they've got different guys. Branch, Noah Thomas, the freshmen. You still have guys like London Humphreys and Dylan Bell, Nitro Tuggle, Sokovia White. You still have guys. And Kobe Young will be back. Rod Thomas will not. So they've got a lot of weapons. So I expect that room to be better. And I think there's several guys who could go on and play at the NFL level who are in that room right now. Dylan Bell looked like an NFL receiver in 2023. And he just couldn't hold on to the ball very well in 2024. And he wasn't grabbing those contested catches, right? The tough grabs he just wasn't coming up with. And he made big catches here and there. And he did flash that ability that he did in 2023 against Georgia Tech and Florida State, especially down the stretch. He was great against Tennessee. You thought he would take that next step forward. He didn't. He kind of regressed a little bit. It is what it is. That's me trying to speak reality, speak facts. But at the end of the day, Georgia is 100% a place where receivers can come and thrive. And I know they only have 1,000-yard receiver. It's not about that, right? Numbers are numbers. They mean something. They don't tell the whole story. In fact, they don't even tell part of the story, right? Elite wide receivers have come through Georgia several times and have left better players who have gone on to do big things at the NFL level. And it means a lot, and it's important because that was one of the biggest kind of gripes and narratives that opposing coaches use against Georgia on the recruiting trail. And now they're sitting there thinking, what now? Right now we can tell recruits that they took a step back from 2022, a little bit in 23, and a little. So they'll have to shift the narrative. But the narrative to receivers specifically that you can't succeed at Georgia, it's over. It is over. Wide receivers can do big things, not only at Georgia, but in the NFL. And we're seeing it time and time again. And we saw it a lot this past year. So Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, even George Pickett's having a really good year, crushing the narrative. The haters don't like it, but it is reality, and it's a big deal. And I know that Kirby Smart is absolutely thrilled watching this. James Coley is thrilled watching it. Mike Bobo, they're thrilled watching that. They can use this on the recruiting trail and in the transfer portal to see that room improve. And I think it's going to improve in a big, big way in 2025. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on the website.